So I just wanted to hop on here real quick because I was thinking about the whole concept of learning the game of business and how if you actually want to make a business out of your side hustle, if you have a talent, if you're a photographer, you're a graphic designer, you make logos, you create brands, right? You actually have to learn the game of business itself. See, one of the things that we as creatives do think that we often think that our skill is enough, right? Our skill is enough to be a business, but that's often not the case. Now, skills may be enough to create the idea and get a business started and to provide a service, right? That people are willing to pay for. But that doesn't mean that you're going to have a successful business. And the reason I thought about this is because today I stopped by a friend's studio. He has a recording studio, old friend from high school. Haven't seen him in a really long time. But he was there at the studio with another guy. And this guy was in the creative space as well, graphic design, photography or videography, building brands, things of that nature. And, we're talking about, the business of things and, growing and expanding. And, we're talking about another friend of ours who has a business where, he's really in position to really take it somewhere. But it kind of hasn't really taken off as much as it probably should have. And one of the things I thought to myself is because, we often as creatives don't take the time to learn the game of business because we have the skill set that we need already to create a business. But in order to build one and to sustain one, you have to actually learn the game of business. And now learning the game isn't something that everybody wants to do, right? Everybody wants to be able to say they have a business or, maybe have some great skill or some great talent that they think they can turn into a business. And a lot of times they could if they wanted to, but they didn't take the time to actually learn the game of business because if this is something that you want to do, right? You want to be a photographer, videographer, graphic designer, right? You want to, do a clothing line or create a brand, right? All those things are all good and well. But if you want to do them independently and you want to do that to a point where, you build a business off of it, you got to learn the game of business, right? Now you can do it for somebody else, have a job, be a graphic designer at a studio, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But what I often notice is that, people who say that they want to have a business or, maybe they're struggling to get it rolling or to get up and running, or they just been doing it for a long time and they just can't seem to crack the code. The thing about it is that, well, you got to learn the actual game of business, right? And I feel like I keep saying that, but that's really what it comes down to. And there's a lot involved in that, right? There's a lot involved in actually growing the business as opposed to just providing the services within it, right? So for example, you might be really good at creating brands, right? But are you good at getting sales, right? Do you have soft skills where you can go out, talk to people, meet people, tell them about your goods and your services, and even be able to create sales if they're in the neighborhood for your goods and services, right? And winning their business. And that isn't just, you got to actually be active in pursuing those things. You got to be going out. You got to be meeting people. You got to be networking, right? You got to be finding ways to get in front of certain people or get in front of a certain type of an audience or a demographic who would pay you money for your goods and your services. And you also got to understand that when you're a creative, the things that the businesses or the jobs, shall I say, that you take on aren't always going to be as creative as you want them to be, because it's somebody else's vision. They're paying you to bring it to life. They're paying you to put your artistic spin on it and give them some direction on, how to, take what's in their head and manifest it. Sometimes people are very hands off and they let you do whatever you want to do. But oftentimes, they want some type of creative input, and it might not be exactly what you would do. But at the same time, you're doing what you would do, which is we're doing what you want to do as a business, which is, providing that service for that person using your creative or your unique skill set. You see what I mean? But at the end of the day, you got to learn business, right? You just got to learn how to bring in You got to learn how to sell. So how you can bring in revenue. You got to realize how much revenue do you need to bring in to sustain yourself, right? You got to figure out things outside of your business, like lowering your expenses, right? So you don't have a huge debt load that you have to service, right? Because the more debt that you have to service in your own personal life, the more money you have to make inside of your business, right? And getting a business up and running and getting it to a point where you can be fully self-sufficient takes time, because there's a lot of different things that you have to learn, right? You're not going to learn, or you're not going to know everything when you get started. And you got to understand that it's going to take time, and you have to be aware of that, and also be wary of people who might tell you that it doesn't take a lot of time. They might tell you you can go from, 0 to 6 figures in 6 months. And that's not always the case. Now, that might be the case for somebody who has experience, because I've seen people who've built businesses to a 6-figure business within a 6-month time frame. But a lot of times those people already had experience building another type of a business. Even if that previous business isn't as big as the one that they built, or the one that they, the example that I just gave you, maybe their previous business never hit those type of numbers, but they had experience on what it took to actually build a business, right? To actually know how to, work the books and know how to work a room when you go and you network and you talk to people, and figuring out who's your clientele, who's the customer base that you can service, and who's going to pay you, who has money that's going to pay you decent amount to do what you like to do in a way that you like to do it, right? Something that's just not specifically for money, but you hate doing it. And once again, to come full circle, it all goes back to learning the game of business. And that's just, I figured I'd just talk about that because, I was looking at this young guy, and that he had a lot of creative potential. He had a lot of mental roadblocks, but it was there, right? That if he really wanted to create something, he could. He would have to get disciplined. He would have to learn. He would have to do the things that nobody else wants to do. Do the things that you don't feel like doing. You got to do it because you're building up something for yourself that could be bigger than yourself, potentially one day. Or it can set you up for the next thing that could be bigger than, whatever your first endeavor may have been. So take your time, learn the game of business. If this is something that you want to do, if you want to actually be in business, you want to, be, in the creative space 100% full time. Take the time to learn and just understand that that's going to take time. It's not coming overnight. It's not, everybody takes the stairs. I feel like I've said that on my channel before, but everybody takes the stairs. So hopefully you found that video helpful. And if so, give me a like and drop me a comment. Let me know where you're at with your business right now. And for all my people out there who are trying to build a life on their terms so they can get it how they live, this is your man, Jonathan Moore, and I'm signing out. Peace.